first and foremost is strictly tying into your question, and that's that views don't really matter, okay? And this is something that you see on eBay as well, and on Mercari actually. You can't really see views on Poshmark, but like it's very, very similar on any marketplaces. Like, views are an indicator of potential interest and potential sales of a product, right? But that's all they are. They're just an indicator. There have been items that I've listed on Facebook Marketplace where I've gotten, hundreds of views like super fast, and they never sell and they never get any interest, right? And they're still sitting there doing that. And there have been items where I've gotten like 2 to 10 views, which is like next to nothing, and then eventually they sell like in a couple days. So I don't necessarily think that, while views definitely are an indicator of potential sales, they're not the be all end all. I wouldn't really focus too much on views and gauge your listings and if they're going to sell on their views. Now, what you can do is you can look at your listings as a whole and see, like, if you list like a bunch of, specific niche products, and then you list like a bunch of different category products, and then another category of products. If you look at those categories as a whole, and a bunch of the one category is getting a lot more views than another, then that could be a potential indicator of like, list more of those products in that category because there's a lot more interest there, right? But I wouldn't really gauge it listing to listing and be like, this listing's dead because it didn't really get a lot of listings or didn't get a lot of views on it, and gauge it that way. So that's my opinion. Test it out. Like I said, I'm still learning this stuff myself, but that's what I've kind of seen, okay? Another thing is that you can, and this is actually a little tidbit that I found out it wasn't yesterday, it was like 2 or 3 days ago. And this is really, really cool. So I personally, full disclosure, haven't tested this yet. Like, I have tested it to see that it's viable, but I haven't actually gone a step further with it. And that's that I was in a Facebook group, because I'm in a couple different Facebook groups now on Facebook dropshipping, just because it kind of interests me. I like to see what like other people are dealing with and like what's working for them. And I realized that you can actually you can go into Facebook Marketplace, broaden out your radius to 500 miles, right? It's from like in your search. And so you can obviously switch where you're searching from, right? So like, if your location broadens out 500 miles and it doesn't reach the entirety of the US, you can go to the other coast or like a different part of the US as like your location, broaden out 500 miles and do another search. And what you can do is you can actually find the people that are successful in the Facebook Marketplace dropshipping group, because you can't really have, people do have multiple Facebook accounts, obviously, but most people don't. They only have one Facebook account. And so if they're listing from that Facebook account and they're in the Facebook dropshipping thing, what most people don't realize is obviously all their marketplace listings are going to be under their personal seller profile, right? So you can go into Facebook Marketplace, broaden out your radius to 500 miles or move it around, and then search for that specific person, especially if you know their location, which it obviously shows you on their Facebook profile most of the time. So you can find that seller, click on that seller profile, literally see all the listings that they're selling, okay? So that I know you can do. I tested it out, right? And yesterday was Sunday, which is my off day. I also was like at a party, so I really didn't do anything yesterday. I found this out like 2 days ago, like I think like right before I like signed off and like didn't really do anything. So I haven't touched and played around with this yet, but I plan on testing it out later. And you can obviously search them on Facebook Marketplace, find them, and potentially, again, I haven't gone this far, potentially reverse engineer all their top listings. Or, if you really just want to put the work in, and you know that they're obviously selling well because you can see the ratings on their profile. There's been a couple people that I've seen this already. Or if they're a YouTuber and they're in the Facebook group, which obviously a lot of them are, and they run their own Facebook groups, you can literally find them, see every single listing that they're listing, search all those products, figure out where their supplier is, and then reverse engineer it and list it and slightly undercut them. That's business, right? You can do that. I'm definitely planning on testing that out later tonight. It's not my be all end all, because obviously I don't focus heavily, like dropshipping. This dropshipping business is not my main thing. I have content. I also do reselling, but it's definitely something I'm playing around with and testing heavily out, like for like an hour or two at night. Definitely plan on trying that out. That's a cool little tip. Test it out. I bet you there's something there, okay? So the next little thing I want to touch on is that you can focus, more on listing a lot of things instead of doing heavy product research on things before listing them, okay? So just like you, I've watched a lot of videos on this on YouTube just to see like what's working for other people, if they have any other insights, kind of like what I'm going over right here in this video for other, that I can kind of gather and use myself. And one of the tips I was seeing a lot was like, do a lot of product research on Facebook Marketplace to find your products, right? And like that might be able to work, but I've found a lot more success doing it just listing a bunch of things and testing them out, especially with Z-Drop. And the tip that I'm gonna go into like next, you can list them super fast, okay? So I'm talking like 30 seconds to a minute list, and you can just list, like, you're better off listing like a couple hundred things if you really wanted to a day than doing product research heavily and finding like one or two, in my opinion, because chances are if you list a couple hundred things or even like 100 things, which won't take you that long at all with Z-Drop the way that you're doing it, is you're gonna find a couple items that sell and sell really, really well. For me, for example, I think I don't know how many listings I have. Let's say 500 right now, but I really don't know. It could be lower than that, probably is lower than that, but it's a couple hundred plus. There's probably a couple products in there that have sold a couple times, but there's, I think, 3 of them that have sold just over and over and over again. There's one in particular that I get like 3 sales a day on, and then the other ones I get like a sale every couple days, and they're repeat ones. So that's really what you're looking for, and that's what a lot of other YouTubers have said that do this as well, is list a bunch of things until you figure out what works for you. Obviously, list in-demand stuff. So for example, it's really nice out in the majority of the US right now, so what you wanna do is you wanna list like outdoor stuff, right? Like grills, obviously, because they're good high margins. You know, patio and lawn, outdoor games, beach games. Start thinking like that. Swimsuits, things like that, right? You want to list in-demand stuff, obviously, but I wouldn't waste your time doing spending so much time on product research. Instead, you're better off spending like a night or two really going at it, listing a couple hundred things and figuring out what's working for you, right? So that's the next little tidbit. The next thing that I found cool that I actually didn't know originally is, in all the rest of my tutorials in the past, I was showing you like my inventory system, right? Where like I'd put the number at the bottom of the description, and this is specifically just for Facebook Marketplace. If you're not using Z-Drop, then you need to do the list. You need to like have some kind of inventory system as well. But Z-Drop actually will store your inventory. If you go into the Z-Drop, you can look at all your products and you can actually search through your products, right? And then it has the price of the product, and then like on the actual supplier website, it holds that. And then also is a clickable link to that actual supplier website. So I didn't realize that until like a few days ago, where you don't need to actually keep track of your inventory if you're using Z-Drop to pull it to Facebook Marketplace or to Etsy, because what it will do is it will store your inventory and you can just click the link, right? So if you sell like, you know, I don't know, like Barber, Weber, Grill, whatever it is, right? Like you just search that in Z-Drop when you pulled that listing over. Make sure that you don't change the title too much. Keep the majority of it, even if you switch it a little bit. And then you can just search for that in your Z-Drop extension and find the link and just click it that way. So you don't need to keep track of inventory, which again saves you a lot of time because you don't have to manage it, get the like it's gonna save you like 30 seconds each listing, but that 30 seconds adds up to like an hour if you're doing a lot of listings, right? So that's another little cool tidbit. The next thing is list higher priced things and list higher margin things, right? There was for example, the one thing that I sell like 2 or 3 times every single day is a lower margin thing. And I think I make like $3 or $4 depending on the sales tax and where it's going in the country, right? That's great. I'm very, very grateful for those sales, and it hopefully obviously is going to get me reviews on Facebook Marketplace to help rank my profile, help other buyers buy with trust, but it's not really worth my time, in my opinion, every single time to facilitate that sale for $3 to $4. So my tip that I've seen works better, there was one that I sold 2 today of that literally I think was a 110% margin. And it was like I ended up making like 30 or 40 bucks on it both times I did it, right? And so that's a no-brainer. That's a profit margin that's worth my time doing. And so that's kind of what I'm focused more on, right? There's also like higher margin things like I moved into, you can't really do it on Facebook Marketplace specifically with a lot of like furniture equipment because they don't give you the shipping option with furniture. There are certain categories that you can't ship on Facebook Marketplace with. But things like that where there's expensive products, if that's you and you want to kind of avoid competition, if it's not, that's fine. But the higher, you know, and more expensive products you list, obviously the higher potential profit margin you're going to have. Not always, but you know, you can obviously make it that way. And then obviously you're not really competing with all the newbies in there because nobody else wants to list something that's like a couple $100 because they don't have a couple $100 to continue to spend. So that may or may not be you, but if it is you, then obviously that's how you can differentiate yourself. And I've been testing that out recently and seeing that you can make like 90 to $100 on every single listing if you're willing to list high-end products and you have the money or the credit to do it with, okay? So you don't need to list that high if that's not you. You can list products like I just talked about where like you're listing it for like 30 to 50 bucks and making like 30 to 50 bucks on it, because there's a lot of good items like that if you find them on good suppliers. So that's another little tidbit. Focus more on higher profit margins, and then you don't have to have as many listings because your margins will make up for that. You're not selling like, you know, 10 $5 products a day for 50 bucks. Instead, you're selling like two $25 ones. It's a lot less time invested on your part and it's the same profit. So that's my opinion on that. The next is very, very important, and this is don't use Amazon or Walmart as your suppliers. Now, the benefits of using Amazon and Walmart as your suppliers are they're super easy. They're very, very reliable companies. You know, they ship very, very quickly, and a number of other things, right? And they have a lot of great products to choose from. You can basically use their entire catalogs, and there's a lot of great products to drop ship. But that said, the issue with that is like everybody starts with those, right? So you're competing with everybody else that's starting this and everybody else that probably already has an established business because they're probably listing from Facebook or from Amazon or Walmart. So you can, but you're in a large pool, or sorry, you're in a small pool with a lot. You know what I'm trying to say. You're competing with a lot of people in that aspect. Whereas if you list from other suppliers, you're not competing with as many people, which ties me in my next point. Obviously, you can use, there's like 30 people on the ZDrop site that you can use, like 30 websites. So if you're not using Walmart or Amazon, that's great. But you can even take it a step further and not use any of the ones from ZDrop. Now, the drawback of that is you won't be able to move your listings over as fast, but the benefit of that is you're competing with like next to nobody. If you find like another great supplier that's not on the ZDrop website, everybody that's drop shipping via Facebook Marketplace right now is using ZDrop to do it, okay? I am, okay? But there's definitely other suppliers that I'm testing out and moving their products over manually, and you can find something with like an image downloader. I've made videos on this in the past when I actually did the Poshmark one. So you can find like the image downloader. I think it's, it's e-commerce image downloader. Search that in the Google Chrome store, and basically what that does is it pops up. You can't see it right now because you know, I don't have it running on like an Amazon listing. But it pops up with a little thing that just says download all the images on the actual listing. And that saves you so much time because you don't have to literally right click and download or take a snapshot of it and then save it, right? So it saves you a lot of time. You can just download all the images, copy the title, copy the description, move it over very, very quickly. It's not going to be as fast as ZDrop, but it's going to be still pretty fast. And on top of that, you're competing with next to nobody with that supplier, okay? So the best tip that I could give you is A, don't use Amazon or Walmart, but also you could even take it a step further and not use any of the suppliers on the ZDrop site and just use something else entirely in a different supplier that nobody's using, and then nobody else will be able to compete with you on those products because nobody else is using that supplier. That's probably the best tip that I could give you, and then you start listing like 100 products from that supplier, chances are you'll find a lot of success doing it, okay? Now, the next tip that I wanted to touch on is think of this as a long-term game, and every listing that you create adds value, you know, and potential sales to your business over time, right? So it ties back into the point of like none of your listings are really actually dead, and I thought that in the beginning that they were, but every single listing that you list, and I've been looking at this on Poshmark and seeing that it's true because I don't just drop ship on Facebook Marketplace. I've been testing this out on a number of platforms. Every single listing is a potential sale over time, right? So the more listings that you have, obviously this doesn't correlate specifically, but the more listings that you have potentially, the more potential sales that you'll make. This is true in reselling. It's also true in drop shipping. So look at it as a long-term game. The more listings that are quality, obviously, that you add to your store, the more potential sales that you get over time. Because honestly, there's a lot of people on YouTube creating videos right now that are like, how to make $100 a day drop shipping on Facebook Marketplace, or how I made $10,000 drop shipping my first month on Facebook Marketplace. I'm not saying that they're lying. They very well could be doing that, but it is important to curb your expectations. And I totally get, as like somebody that creates YouTube videos, I've gone way past this where like I genuinely don't care like if the views none of my videos get much views anyway. It's just kind of like a fun thing for me, and also I relate it to you, and also like this is a good target market for my Resale University course, which is I help you. Eventually, if I help you enough, you'll potentially go through and buy the course, which first link in the description if you want to check out a video of what it is, how it can help you, and how you can get a dollar trial for it. But so the whole thing there is like I get why they make those videos, because and title them that way. Like, I'm no saint either. I've done that in the past, and I probably still will continue to title videos like that if I come up with a decent title. But like, a lot of it's hype. They probably, you know, some of them probably are doing that. Some of them probably aren't doing that. Curb your expectations. Think of it more as like a long-term business, and don't go into it. If you go into it with the mindset of like, I need to make $10,000 this month, or I need to make $10,000 next month drop shipping on Facebook Marketplace, you're gonna get bummed out because you're not gonna see those results right away, and it's gonna discourage you. Instead, set a realistic goal. Maybe I wanna make 5 sales a day, consistently over my first month, or I want to make $1,000 from this profit my first month. Those are obtainable goals that you can hit, and then that will inspire you once you hit them to see like, okay, like I made 1,000, like how can I actually scale this now? Maybe I add more listings to my store. Maybe I add more, I find a better supplier. Maybe I branch out to other marketplaces, right? So look at it more long-term. Don't look at it as like some easy way to get cash right now, okay? And the next thing that I wanted to touch on, and finally, is specific to your question, but also specific to everybody, is like, I've been probably getting like 5 sales a day now. And one of the things that I haven't actually added it up because I have like a long spreadsheet, and this ties directly into my point, is like, I don't draw any specific conclusions yet because it's too early. It's only been like 2 weeks really that I've really been going at this, maybe a couple weeks more than that, like where I was testing it out with like a listing here and there. But it's only been like a week or two realistically that I've really been kind of testing this out in depth. And so I don't have enough data yet, right? So the key lesson here is don't pivot too fast. Don't judge your listings too fast. Don't judge your products. Don't judge the category that you're listing in too fast. And look at it more as a long-term game, right? That way, as you accumulate more data and you do it like over a month or two, you'll have more data, you'll know what works for you, and you'll be able to make better, more informed decisions. This is true in any online business, but obviously drop shipping. A perfect metaphor and an example of this is like when I run advertising, I'm doing it on YouTube right now. You might have even seen some of them as somebody that watches this channel. I used to panic when I didn't, like in the beginning, like I used to sell my course for like $500 with the discount, right? It was $9.95, but then discounted to $500. And if I didn't make that $500, like if I ran ads that were like $500 and I didn't make a sale, I was like, oh my God, and shut the ad off, right? But now I'm seeing that like if you give it more time, more data, it optimizes better, and you start to get better results over the long term, and your cost per customer, your cost per lead, all that stuff goes down, right? Your cost per click, your cost per impression. And so it's the same thing with Facebook Marketplace. It's the same thing with dropshipping or any of these types of things, right? Do it more, accumulate more data. I'm not saying do it for a year, but don't just do it for like a week, look at your listings and think that you're not successful or you're doing something wrong. Do more of it, accumulate more data, then draw better conclusions with more data. You'll see more consistency.